Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind. I'm here joined by Coach. I'm here joined by Beyond. We're going to go through our normal, typical show, and then we're going to open things up. If you are in the viewers, in the listeners, feel free to join. If you know, we'll do one at a time at the very end, but we're going to get through our we'll say not regularly, but our scheduled programming. I'm going to try to make these banners up so people know the topics that we are discussing when we are discussing them, of course. And so, uh, without further ado, we're going to talk about the Raptors week, and just basically how it's gone. So, yeah, I guess we'll start it off by looking at how the Raptors have done this week. And I should also add one caveat by basically pointing out that the Raptors have effectively won 2 games this week. With the 2 games being I believe the first one, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm looking at the wrong schedule here. But yeah, they won against the Hawks. No, that was still last week. So coming into this week, they won against the Pelicans and the Wizards, and then they lost against the Bulls. Now, before we get to the Bulls loss, there is one more game this week, but we have kind of, in preparation for the big Super Bowl, we have shifted things back. So for this week and probably the next week, we're going to be covering things on Saturdays, and we'll kind of go from there. Definitely give us your thoughts on, the overall, call it, how overall musings and how you are thinking of these formats. Do you guys want to get into any of the games in particular, or do you want to just jump ahead to last night's game? Because I know Coach has some thoughts on last night's game.
Well, the floor is yours, Coach.
Coach?
So, my goodness. I went on Zazu's cookout space last night. Just watching that game last night, I was so disgusted. It's not the loss that bothers me, it's how they got the loss. So, for folks who may not have watched the game last night, Chris Boucher did not play 1 second, yet he's been their second or third best player, arguably, in this whole win streak. And you don't play him. And then you come up with the excuse, well, we want to see Jacoby tonight. Really? Jacoby's affecting Chris Boucher's minutes? He's a professional. And you got Al Williams saying, boy, it's just some nights, that's the night in the NBA. Some nights you play, sometimes you don't. Stop insulting our intelligence. Just stop. It was ridiculous last night what I had to watch. I say that from more of a coach's perspective. I just can't imagine if I have a guy who's helping me win 5 games in a row and 7 games in the last 8, you're just going to sit him. I get it. It's the trade deadline. But you mean tell me he can't play 10 minutes tonight?
Okay, I didn't. To be fair, I did not watch last night's game. I actually decided to have a life in this case last night. So to escape Raptors madness for one day. But what Coach is describing, this is not surprising. This was coming to a head all year. We joke amongst the three of us, and our friend Mouth in this case, we call it Raptors malaria, where all of a sudden, mysteriously, someone's out for the day. The back is a little creaky for Pirtle. All of a sudden, in this case here, RJ's under the weather. IQ is out for like the 15th straight game in a row. Anytime they see a little bit of like hope and they seem like they're playing a little bit better, then you know what? That's the reason why I kept telling you guys, don't worry about this, because what we noticed last week when Grange gave the 2 articles, the one that was the first one talking about, hey man, the only guys we're keeping on this team that we're looking at the trade is Scotty and Grady. And then the follow-up, just in case you weren't sure about it, they were very explicit the next time. We are trying to trade Kelly. We are trying to trade Davion. We are trying to trade Bruce Brown. We are trying to trade Chris Boucher. We are making it very clear, folks. So don't mind your winning streak. All y'all in the spaces and stuff like that, enjoying the winning streak. I told you that last time. Have a pina colada by me, man. Enjoy the moment, because this is not what's going to happen. So this was coming to a head. To Coach's point, I said at the beginning of the season, Darko's gonna want to play vets. Why? Because he wants to win, and he thinks that's the best way for the win. He's a coach. It's in his DNA. Doesn't matter how bad a coach he might be. He too wants to win. But the management in this case has a different perspective, and they try to sabotage his team from day one with one center or two guys over 6'10". All right, rookie point guards in this case playing backup minutes in this case. Which, hey, props to Shed. I think he's come a long way. I like how Shed's look. So I'm not even taking that away from him. But it was built to fail from day one. That is what they had planned, folks. That is the reason why I kept telling folks defensive stalwarts like Grady Dick and RJ Barrett and IQ. A team of that composed with those type of players cannot win a significant amount of games or a high percentage amount of games. So now they get a little run going, and now you see now management's kind of putting their foot down, big foot in the process now. Now I don't know, Coach, you have anything more to say, but this segues into kind of the burn underneath, Kenyon's bonnet in this case here, because go ahead.
Sorry, here's my thing. A trade better be in place for Boucher if he didn't play him last night. Because if he comes back to this team after next week, do you know how a slap in the face that is? To a vet, to the last piece of the championship team, when you have no culture, you have no identity, and you have this guy who's playing as well as he is. So I hope there's a trade in place, not only for them, but for his sake as well. He can go help someone win, go help Denver, go help the Knicks, the Clippers, whomever. But what they did to him last night, I hope he's not on the team after Thursday, because that's a slap in the face to me.
Right. Well, I mean, this organization, to be honest, they've kind of done this for the last few years now. I mean, how's my man out in Milwaukee doing, Gary Trent Jr.? like they toss around like a rag doll in this case. Like, I think when you look at it, it is the part where I think sometimes people don't understand. It's like everyone's all player till it comes to their own team, and then they're all of a sudden they're pro management. It's like, hey man, everyone wants to stick it to the man till the moment the man starts sticking it to them in this case, and everyone's like, hey man, we're down with the cause. It's like, wait a second here, man. Like the guy's out here playing his hardest. He's never perfect. No player is. Nope. But like, if he's giving you good minutes, and to your point, Coach, this cuts both ways. Because now if you're a young player, Jacoby Walter, you're sitting there going like, well, what's going on here? Why do first thing that deserve to be eating G League minutes, and now you bring me back up? And to your point, if the trade doesn't happen, what happens to him? Back down to G League? Like, really? What are we doing here? And actually, that's not him. That's plenty of other players are in the same boat. So, like, at some point, and I said before, I leave this to Kenyon because we call it removing the shrub and moving the dead. We're raking out the dead grass, all the dead stuff. This management team seems to be almost like paralyzed to do stuff like this until they got the gun to their head. So I don't know, Coach, if you're finished, but I was going to pass it on to our esteemed host because I know this
is on to our esteemed host for now. I had my little rant. I had it last night more so.
But I can only imagine, man. I wish I was around to see that. Man. I have to go back on the old spaces on the old Twitter to hear that, man. But yeah, man, Kenyon, this is like one of your favorite topics to discuss that makes your head scratch. Like, so to you, sir.
Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, thank you, Coach, for all all that you do. I know there's a lot of ways to approach this, right? So the first way is, yes, people are right. We're trying to tank. So the obvious statement of, well, you're trying to tank, Coach, why are you mad? But you're not coming at it from a management perspective. You are actually a coach. You coached. So that's not how you think, and that's okay. That's why most coaches don't make good managers at the same time. They don't. Stan Van Gundy says hello.
In Detroit.
Exactly. And he's not the only one. We've seen this just a couple of times, but usually, especially when they're in two places at the same time, there's like, there's like two personalities that are arguing against one another. Usually the coach wins out.
Right? Did we do it Casey too?
Yes, you did do it with Casey for a very short stint, but yeah. So at some point, like the coach wins out usually, or at least the coach brain. Mm-hmm. There's an innate desire for coaches to win. We've talked about how Darko was not trying to purposefully lose. But now when he's been let off the leash, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's like some guru coach suddenly that's like amazing. Because again, who are we facing? One of our wins came against the Celtics, who were drunk or hungover. We won twice against the Hawks, one of which they were missing. They actually made us look big because they were missing Clint Capella, and then like three other starters were down. And then the next game, three other starters were down again, including their second best scorer, right? I know some people are convinced by this.
Don't forget the G League. Don't forget the G League Pelicans, man. Come on now.
Well, yeah, and then the Pelicans who are on fumes, where it's like when Zion's in, they can kind of keep up, but then the second that Zion's out, is like gone. And then of course DeJounte Murray. Well, no, that was a while ago though, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause yeah.
Oh, so the 5-game winning streak.
I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
So, because people are convinced by right now, and my whole thing is like, we're not there, and coach is right to an extent that, like, yes, there's an element of management where they might say, okay, they might be convinced or unsure or whatever of this 5-game winning streak. We will get into that in just a second. But I think it's important to kind of cover those things. For the audience, we will be covering your comments. I'm going to catch up on some of these because some of them did have to do with Darko and his comments after the game. So we should probably cover that first. But yeah, I just think, if I'm Boucher, and I know coach has even, played with the idea of, well, what if we re-sign Boucher? We deserve to. No. Like, first of all, we've treated him worse. Okay. We've treated him worse. Last year, they didn't even play him. They're playing Jalen McDaniels. How often? Instead of him? Like, at some point, it's not right to kind of keep doing this to the guy, right? And at some level, you have to respect the guy. So to your point, yes, they should be trading him. They tried to trade him last year, year before that. Like, at some point, just let the dude go. Why are we wasting our time with this? Why are we wasting his time? It's not even good for the player morale and mentality. Because either they have to block it out and be like, I'm just ignoring these, or what? It almost dehumanizes players to an extent, but that's a whole conversation for another day. All right, let's get into Darko's comments, because and we will get into a tank race. I'll get into that first. Tank update. So as of yesterday, and after this week, we are tied actually for the 5th worst odds. So with one foul swoop, we could actually swing our odds, depending on how this week goes with Brooklyn and us. Our odds could be swung into the 6th worst odds. Right now, they are tied. And so based on it being tied, our chances of top 4 were, before this game winning streak, was 52%. It is now 39%. So beyond, when you tell me that I shouldn't be worrying, right? And our odds have dropped now to the 30s, the high 30s, but still the 30s of being a top 4, because everyone focuses on Cooper Flagg, but he's not the only one in the draft.
You better believe it.
Exactly. I don't mind Ace Bailey. I don't mind Dylan Harper. I don't mind VJ Edgecombe. Heck, even Kasparis. Okay? Obviously there's a tiered ranking. We'll get into that another time, but I don't mind any of those guys. But if you want those guys, then you better be praying for for us to lose. We might be in a situation where we're losing far too much. We're not losing enough down the road because of right now, when it becomes a true tank off.
Let me defend my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this from the long view. This week, it looks like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Look what's going on here. You just the other day on a space from some of our friends over there on Twitter, or wherever the heck it's called itself now, X. And you riled off you riled off the whole month, but just next week's schedule, what does it look like?
Well, yeah, it starts next week,
right?
Because that's the month of February is a tough month. I get that, but what about the months after February? That's what scares me.
What I'm saying is, like, we take it week by week, because this same time next week, you might read off those same tankathon odds in this case here, and we might have the 3rd best odds. I
agree. There's a two tiered race going on in the East right now. There's one at the bottom and there's one at the top, right? Yeah. And we're in the bottom one. But this is my point: is that, like, we're getting to the extent that if you wanted to catch Charlotte, right, with them and their injuries, Charlotte is at 12 wins and we're at 15.
Right, but here's the thing, right? This goes back to the initial discussion that Coach was talking about and what you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of our friends here on the comments have mentioned the same thing. Yes, the players, the coaches want to win, but the management's not interested in that. So at some point, going back to my gun in the head analogy, they have to February 6th to figure that out.
Well, they better figure it out quick, because you might have wasted this past stretch winning games that you shouldn't be winning.
That is a possibility.
Because we're not going to make the play, and I told people that before. They're like, "Oh, we can get Chicago." It's like, no, we're not
doing that. Okay, like and here's the thing. To your Chicago point, when we spoke offline, Coach even put it out on Twitter that hey, by the end of this week, we might be X amount of games behind Chicago for the 10th spot.
3.5. Yeah.
Right. And I guess in this case, close the gap with Chicago. When the week's done, if I'm not mistaken, Coach, essentially we're right back where we were, right?
Okay.
I think you're five.
Okay. Let me ask you this: what's the highest that you think that we can go? And I can tell you if it's actually possible or not.
The 11th seed in the conference.
No. Sorry, the opposite way in terms of the lottery odds.
The lottery odds, everything that's not named Washington.
No,
and Utah.
I don't think we can. We can't.
Oh, I'm talking about the East. Utah and Washington are a whole thing by themselves.
I'm talking the whole business.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you know, New Orleans, they just lost another one. Now that might end up galvanizing their team because we have thoughts about their point guard play. So fair enough. But like, you now got to get Zion off that minutes restriction, off not being able to play back-to-backs.
That's fair enough. But I think the other thing too is we're not considering the other team's schedules, right? Everyone's going to talk about all the Raptors' schedule would be easy. I don't know what New Orleans' schedule looks like coming down the
stretch. It's easier than ours.
Okay, then, right? And they got better talent than we do. Second thing, Charlotte. At some point, LaMelo
Ball. Sorry, not easier than ours. What I mean by easier than ours is it's easier than ours in the sense that it's easier for them to actually lose more games.
Yeah, we'll see.
They have Denver, the Bucks, right? Like it's like. Then they have the Lakers, Denver again. This is all in the same month that we are, right?
Right.
But they're still 3 games ahead. So I'm just saying, like, it's not just losing; you have to out-lose other teams.
Right.
And we're getting to the point where this next month really does determine a lot, and you got to pray that other people,
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm about. I'm just like, let me see what it looks like at the end of February, and then I'll kind of say like, okay, are we in trouble or not? But I don't think we're going to be we might end up being a game ahead of someone or a game behind someone. I think they're all going to be lumped together. I don't think anyone's going to make. I don't think the Raptors are that good that they're going to make that much distance ahead of these teams. That's what you're telling me?
No, I'm saying we already have the distance. That's the problem.
The 3 games I think can be made back up in a month's time. They have a tougher schedule, man.
New Orleans is the second toughest schedule, and now without Murray, they're probably going to trade Ingram at some capacity if it's to us.
We'll get into that soon.
That's fine. Like, I mean, if that's the case, Brooklyn's still in the mix and Charlotte's still in the mix. I mean, I'm just of the mindset like our team is not talented enough, and when we do finally trade a couple of these guys, I think a few of them are going to go. This team is a week from now. This team will not look like what it looks like now.
Yeah, Charlotte and Brooklyn are going to be the determining factors. I think that the lowest you can get is probably 4, and that's what you're hoping for.
Fair enough. I think you could get to 3 because I don't know. Like, because the thing we don't know is like
Pelicans.
Yes, no, I hear you, but like if they make the move on Ingram, fine. But sometimes, like, you're talking Zion's one thing. But I think once they get gelled and they have their actual team together, which for the most part they should have their team together, I still think New Orleans' talent is good enough. They'll start winning some games that you don't expect them to win right now because their talent is that good.
I agree. There's a chance, but I'm not a Porter man, right?
No, you mentioned
Porter isn't my last name.
You mentioned the Lakers game, right? For example, the Lakers game to me, if you got the Pelicans, even without Murray, and they have everybody else. That's a game they can get if they're all healthy. They're fine. Like I don't think they go. The other night they're playing someone. The other night is one of the big boys, and they just lost by a point. I don't know who it was, Dallas or OKC. They're a team in this case when they could punch up, if you like the phrase. I'm not concerned about that because they have a player that you could punch up with. So like
that's fair.
And I think that's my thing. That you get enough cracks at it for 40 games left. I'll take my chance. The Pelicans are going to win more games than the Raptors. I'll make that bet. I'll be Mr. Porter. I'll make that bet. All right? Yeah, because if you want to put your thing on in this case here with Darko, and the bunch that are going to have remaining, knock yourself out if you want to in this case here, because I already know that the talent there and a bunch of rookies are going to get more playing time over the Pelicans.
I hope so. I would like the rookies to get more. If it's about development, then let's make it about development.
Well, I have 4 scenarios that are possible. Young players, we lose it. I don't mind that scenario. Young players, we're winning. I don't mind that scenario. Old players, we're losing. Don't like that scenario. Old players and we're winning. Don't like that scenario. Because old players and we're losing, we're eating minutes, which is what the old players are winning is the point you're making. Hey,
yes.
What we do here, folks. Young players, either way.
And not only that, old players on expiring contracts.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I said before, I'll make my diagnosis at the end of February, and we'll see where we're at.
All right, we'll recap this at the end of February. Okay.
Yeah.
Will is posting up some of Darko's commentary after the game, so I'll just put this out there, and I'll let you guys give your thoughts, and then we'll move along to the trade rumor stuff. Because I know that, for example, Dan Franklin, I think he asked a couple questions, and I want to get to those. A few other people did as well. So yeah. So just let me know if either of you want to take this. There's 2, kind of quotes here, and we can kind of cover them real quick.
I think both. I thought defensively, particularly in the first quarter, they did well. They were so much bigger than Chicago, too. Chicago started 3 guards last night. They had Ball, White, and Dosunmu. I can't say his name correctly. Mm-hmm. And who else? They start somebody. Pat Williams did not start. I know that for sure. It was Vucevic, and I can't remember the other person. But the Raptors defensively, to start the game, looked fine. But offensively, they looked out of place. The energy in the building. I said that in the space last night. I didn't like it. The fans just didn't seem really into it. And you'd think a team winning 5 in a row that you might be a bit more into it. I'm just saying as a casual fan who doesn't care about the tanking aspect, right? And just watching on the broadcast, it was just like, where's the classic Raptor fan base last night? I just thought the energy was bizarre.
Maybe the fans know more than people expect them to know.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they want to lose too. I don't know, but
that does happen when tickets get overpriced and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think the way that I look at it is we're getting back to the point where are we hitting the wall again this early on in a season? And that's not a good thing, right? Yeah. But it's just, it's not a good thing to hit a wall as a young team, because a young team should be rearing to go and be ready to really, attack things. So, yeah. Okay, so we're just going to go through a couple more comments really quickly. I'll just say NC outlined that, the vets have been playing to showcase it. I agree, but like at the same time, at what cost, right? Because it's like, at some point, are you actually going to get a first for Chris Boucher? You darn well better, because if it's just like that to get a second, then was it really worth it? And this is the point that I made the other day, right? Yeah. Like practice is not the same. I'm not discounting practice. That's not the point of that conversation. So people, please, go back and listen to that actual conversation. My point there was like, not all types of experiences are equivalent. And that's really as simple as that. There is practice, but there's also actually playing in the game at NBA minutes, NBA speed, and those are valuable. And also,
we got some feedback. There we go. Oops, we lost you. We lost you. Coach, can I hear you?
Yep, you get me.
All right.
Okay. Is it better now?
Or better. We're back. Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties.
All right. So sorry about that. Sometimes my mic has a mind of its own. I can't remember what I was saying. I know the general gist, but I think my point is like there's a balancing act. You don't want a young player to go X amount of games without playing, right? Because then that's not giving them the consistency that they need. It's better to give someone 5 minutes as a drip feed than it is to give them like 20 minutes and then they don't see time for like 4 games and then you get another 20 minutes.
I don't have an issue with them showcasing the vets, and I kind of anticipated that they would. I just, for Chris Boucher's sake, I hope they have a trade for him, because I still want. Why trade him if I'm going to get the 52nd pick back in 2028? Like, I just don't see that. Like, hopefully it's a trade at which you might be able to see a young player come in. Maybe a young player's been buried on someone's bench. I just don't want to see DeAndre Jordan and the 52nd pick. I might as well just keep Boucher if that's the point.
Are you saying that you'd rather see someone buried on our bench, or?
Well, if it's a young player that can play a little bit, needs to get an opportunity to showcase that, plus a second, I'm okay with that. That makes a little bit more sense. Just don't trade me someone, a Garrett Temple and the 53rd pick in the draft. I'm like, I might as well just keep Boucher if that's the point. Very rarely do these high 50s pick or 40s pick hit. You know, we'll see if he hits. I mean, I'm a big fan of him, but he's really young. Sometimes it's worth to take a chance on that. Most people in the 50s don't hit.
Absolutely. IQ played well last night. Yeah.
IQ played last night?
He did play last night.
The record continues. All right, then. We in business then. We can skip all this other discussion, and we can just cut the chase. Once IQ's playing, man, I'll take my Pelicans bet in a heartbeat. Give me a third seed for sure. I didn't know that. The folks at home, I didn't realize IQ played. If IQ's playing, I'm locked in for the top 3 seed. I see it, Ace. I see it.
Oh my gosh. I don't
good.
necessarily disagree.
Be good in these streets. IQ's playing.
All right.
There's the factor. Okay. There's the X factor right there.
Jeez. Okay. Really quickly, are the Raptors buyers and sellers? This is a perfect segue into the next segment. I don't know, but I think that they should be sellers. That's how I'll start the thing. We'll go in reverse order. Actually, we'll go to Coach first, and then we'll go to Beyond.
After last night, sell the works. That's how frustrated I am.
Coach put a sign up in front of Scotiabank Arena.
No. I think they're going to be selling on Boucher and Olynyk. I think they're going to try to sell on Brown. You'll know next game if some of these guys don't play. There's a deal in place, 100%. If Bruce Brown does not play next game, we know something's in the works.
You say that
works with Boucher. You know, I know you never know with this team.
Coach, is this your first time watching the Raptors?
Oh man, unfortunately not. We're in on everybody, but we move like molasses. This front office, like we're in on Ingram, we're in on Fox, we're in on Wiggins, we're in on so and so, but we move
slow,
like molasses.
You got to ask yourself if Masai is still in the BlackBerry Bold.
I have a theory what's going on. It ties back to Boucher.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Because there's either 2 things you have to think about this. I posed this question before. Either the Raptors front office is the most incompetent front office we've ever seen. Because you have a player that's playing well with an easy contract to move. You know, a 10-year-old could probably move this contract. Ain't that hard to move, guys? like this contract could be moved last year. So then you have to ask yourself, well, why hasn't the contract been moved yet? And the only thing I can think of is going back here to Coach's point, right? They still got their toe in the water to be doing big game hunting. They just think they got just if we just keep Boucher, we can put him together for our big package, just in case. Just to have that little thing underneath the pillow, just in case. And at some point, you got to cut your losses and realize this is what happens when you don't pick a direction. Where you just feel like, you know what, if we just keep Boucher long enough, we could throw him someone else, be it Bruce Brown or RJ, and hey, man, we get us a big dog in this game. You're not getting any big dogs, guys. All right? You're getting a lot of guys in this case perpetrating like big dogs. All right? Most of them in this case are puppies. They're not big dogs. They're Dachshunds. They're not Rottweilers. Like, you out here trying to like getting Brandon Ingram. You want to talk about putting paint on something, in this case here, or a lipstick on a pig and telling me something different. Like, this is, I must admit, there's a sick, twisted basketball mind of mine that kind of wants us to go through this and watch it play out. Because I would be sitting with popcorn, just can't wait to hear these dudes here on the spaces. Man, I would be sitting there cracking up. You know the fellow with the meme where you just sit back and chopping the popcorn? That would be me. I would be enjoying that to full extent.
Yeah. We will get into this at the very end, just in terms of the Brandon Ingram aspect of it. But in terms of the Raptors going for the play-in, I think it's very hard for them to go to the play-in. We are right dab smack in the middle, where it's like we are a little bit closer to the tank than to the play-in, but I don't think we can outwin against the teams in front of us. So I will say that unless February has to really go well. Sorry?
Didn't we get whooped by about 20 by one yesterday?
Yes, and that's the other thing is that they have the tiebreaker, right? So
Without Zach Levine.
I know someone mentioned that we play the Hornets 3 more times. We don't play well against the Hornets for whatever reason. It's just a thing. So I'm not really worried about that, but like there's other games that I'm kind of worried about. Okay. So trade rumors and all that good stuff. They're using the same background. Hey, they're in the same house, man.
Brought to you by Basketball Rewind.
Exactly. The back.
Your HGTV segment right here, guys.
One of you has a phone in the background, by the way. The Basketball Rewind, house is really bumping. So, which are you? Whoever has the phone going, please mute for just a second, and I'm just going to go through it. Fox to the Spurs does seem like it's happening. I think it's very interesting for sure. In terms of what it could be, I'm not going to get into the imaginations of the deal. I did hear a offshoot of the deal where it was like, hey, there's a possibility that it's a 3-team or 4-team deal with DeMar DeRozan coming back. I'm good. I'm so good. I know that he misses here and he's shown up on open gyms and all that kind of stuff. I'm straight, man. It is good. You enjoy yourself. You can have the single day retirement, ceremony, but yeah, I'm good. Your guys' thoughts on Fox to the Spurs before we get into the Raptors side of things? Because that's really the major thing.
Wemby putting pressure on, just like he did last year. He ain't messing around with a rebuild, and he shouldn't with a generational type player like Victor Wembanyama. I'm glad that he's putting some pressure on them. They got lots of picks they can throw around. They can easily go get Fox and absorb him. And you have Fox and Wemby for the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever, playing pick and roll. I mean, you're in a pretty good spot that way. So they have the capital to do so. Like, I just like how Wemby's putting pressure on them, just like Giannis does with Milwaukee. Not quite to that degree that Giannis, throw your coaches are going out the door pretty quick. But I'm glad he's doing that.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I can still hear the phone going. Here's what I will say is just in terms of how things are going, I think it's a smart move. We were talking to someone on Space recently, and the notion was, they were kind of flip-flopping. So on one hand, they said, OKC is this or OKC is that, and OKC hasn't done anything with their picks. It's like, exactly. At some point, you have to go for it. But also in the cap world, while Wemby's making the money that he's making, and he's not on a supermax, you have to go and get talent because that's the only and best way to be able to fulfill a good, solid roster with potentially 3 guys or more. So that is one of the things that I think that they should really focus on is that. So yeah, I think that's kind of it in terms of the Wemby Spurs side of things. There's not really the perfect guy for them to go for, but I do think that they need point guard help because at some point, Chris Paul is getting older, and you know what, Wemby's Wemby, Fox is Fox, and it also gives them multiple cracks at the can. If it doesn't work, they can always flip out Fox down the road. But it's hard to do that again when Wemby is making a full supermax, which he probably will be making, because more than likely at some point between this year and the next 2 years, he will be a defensive player of the year. so there's that. Just quickly. There's no chance that Barnes will have to either get Defensive Player of the Year, which any year that Wemby is making it, there is no chance of anyone else making it moving forward. The other thing is Barnes could make MVP. Nope, not this year. And Barnes making All-NBA. 10th seed is not good enough unless we go on a tear, and it's all because of him. And so I just, not to spend too much time on it, but I just don't see him making the Supermax deal. And actually, it would even be worse because he is making a 30% max. It would be a 35% max, which is where it really starts to hurt your pockets. But that's okay. Moving along, Boucher rumors. We talked a lot about Boucher today. I would say there are new rumors with the Knicks I don't know how I feel about it because the only real initial deal that I can think of is Mitchell Robinson. Beyond, I know you wanted to comment on that, so I'll go with you first. Just from a monetary standpoint, Mitchell Robinson seems to be the one that makes the most sense. Thoughts?
Okay, I didn't know I really had that much interest in the Knicks deal. Okay, Mitchell Robinson is just one more dude to help us get in the tank, man, because he plays about 5 games a season. So hey, man, that's good. Like if they want to make the deal for Mitchell Robinson, he never plays, so like it's no, it's no different than your Time Lord deal. It's essentially the same deal. So like Mitchell Robinson plays like 10 games a season. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind it because you just rest him. So
Right.
from that standpoint, I think it's good because you have an excuse to rest him. I wanted Time Lord for that exact reason. I was like, trade him, let him rest for a year, bring him back the following year, and see what you have. If you have something great, if he's injured, then so be it. Coach, do you have any thoughts? Otherwise, Will brought this up, and we'll touch on that really quickly.
About the Knicks deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like any of the things that the Knicks probably have to offer. They trade all their picks away in the Bridges deal. I think, did they give up one in the Towns deal as well? I guess maybe they got some seconds, but I don't want Mitchell Robinson. There's a few other teams out there that I'm more curious about for Boucher than I am the Knicks.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not looking at it right now, but if there is some sort of I don't know. Let's see. If the Knicks have a second or whatever, maybe. Yeah, it looks like they have a couple seconds. So maybe 2 seconds or whatever. I'm just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they have some first-round protected picks this year, but
Yes.
Washington, I think, gets their pick back, and there's another team, too. It's protected. I think it might be Detroit, something like that.
Yeah, so the other one would be the Denver, and we mentioned the Clippers as well. Now the Clippers will just get out of the way fast. The Clippers are strange because there's nothing really that I want from the Clippers in terms of players. You're looking at Terrence Mann. He went to FSU, I think, as well. But Terrence Mann, who is probably not the right type of guard in a log-jammed guard rotation. And again, there's you guys talked about Coffee.
I mentioned about the Clippers for a second. If I hear one more report telling me about how the Clippers are considering one of their young players and they're calling Terrence Mann the same sentence, I'm going to throw up, okay? Ain't nothing young about Terrence Mann, folks, okay? Like, he's like 27, 28 years old. That ain't young.
Yes. That is a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, I mean, the Clippers right now, he's actually 28 years. What?
Yes.
Yeah, he's old. Yeah, he was like a 4-year college player.
Yeah, you will read reports even last year. It's say like the Clippers might consider they not want to give up one of their young players. And Coffee's not no spring chicken either. They're sitting there going like, it's like one of their young players, like Terrence Mann. Ain't got young about Terrence Mann. Remember when the Fred stuff was going on? Like Terrence Mann was already like 20 years old.
With the Fred stuff. I remember they didn't want to toss in Terrence Mann.
Like Terrence Mann's like almost 27. What young player we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm good.
And Fred was like 29.
But also, even before this, I'm good. I mean, unless they're going to give you Zubac, which they will not. I just don't see it. Maybe Derek Jones Jr., but that also doesn't make any sense.
Just sign him. They're not going to trade him.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, it doesn't make no sense. Maybe Nicholas Batum and something and Coffee. Yeah, Nicholas Batum and Coffee. Do you guys want Nicholas Batum as a Raptor? People who want vets, there you go. You can get Nicholas Batum. Step right up. Step right up.
If I could get $1,000 every time I heard a trade with the Raptors and Nicholas Batum over the last 15 years of Batum's career, I would pretty much be retired right now, man. I've lost track of how many times Batum coming to Toronto has been part of a discussion.
Okay, so moving along, Denver. We've kind of already talked about that. The framework that would make sense there is Zeke Nagy and maybe Deron Holmes, which I think would be the best thing. And I wouldn't even mind not getting a pick there.
Yeah. I would take that deal.
Denver's the only rumor that I've heard so far where I'm in on if it's for Boucher. If you could get even just Najee back and you throw in some cap, Holmes and Najee would be interesting because Holmes, I know he tore his ACL, so he'd be back next year. That could also impact your drafting as well, because if you got all these bigs now coming in per se, you're probably looking at a big wing that you're going to take. So, I mean, if you pull that off, sure, I'm on board for that. Even just Najee alone in a salary filler in a second, I'm okay with that as well.
Well, Holmes also helps because if they're including both of them, they also get to decrease their salary burden, right? And that's important for Denver. So that's a way where they can get closer to being under the first apron, because they did. One of the things is they did mention they want to get under that to go big game hunting for waiver wire people. So
yeah,
that could be a way. It doesn't get them quite all the way there, but with a secondary move for whatever, they get closer and closer to that. So I wouldn't mind that. And also Daron Holmes, that helps to solidify whether he's a center or a power forward. It helps to solidify your front court a little bit moving forward. So there is that. Sorry, comments, I've been ignoring you a little bit, so we will catch up to those in just a second. Speed running through this. Kelly, nothing new. Old Golden State rumors. Haven't heard anything since. Now, I want to get into what's below here with Will's comment, where Warriors might be the favorites for Butler. I can see it. They're the team that is the most motivated, and I think the fallout from it is it could be the team that's most poised with Butler to push forward into the playoffs beyond the second round if they get it. But depends on what they're giving up. The 3-team deal sounds like it would have to be part of it. For people keep talking about Wiggins here. Now, I have thoughts about that. I know Beyond will have thoughts, and then we'll just get right into the comments, and then we'll go into the Ingram deal. Here's my thoughts. I don't want Wiggins here for a couple reasons. First of all, yes, he's better than a Bruce Brown, because that would be part of the deal. But, I mean, we're not trying to be better. People say you could sit Wiggins. I don't know. Wiggins seems to do his own thing. So I don't know if you're going to be able to sit Wiggins, and I just don't see the purpose of it. He's older. It makes you better defensively. It is interesting. He does something offensively, but I feel like people just like it because he's Canadian. Obviously, he has some skill. The defense is there, all that, but I don't know. I just don't get the point of getting Wiggins right now on this specific team, and then continuing to lock up more money into a team that has not really shown, even with the injuries, that they are the best team right now in terms of the build. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think it's really telling that Miami does not want Wiggins, because you would think that they would want Wiggins. I know that they're trying to keep the powder dry for future free agency classes like Luka, but to me, you'd think that they would be motivated to compete and would take a guy like Wiggins, because they don't own their own pick this year. Beyond.
Wiggins, my gosh. Why would you want to pick a player in this case that's got to be one of the most frustrating players in the last 10 or 12 years to watch and to have expectations for? Because what will end up happening if he were to come to this team, this market's very different to every other market besides Minnesota, where he was the number one pick, where they had a certain expectation. This is the only other market where there will be expectations as if he was still the number one pick overall, and he's still that player. And you just don't need that. I said it before, and I'll say it again, man. I don't like having too many guys in this case, like a mercurial mindset. Sky's the big one. He's kind of one. You don't want that in this case on your team. You don't have one of them, but you have a couple of them that are mainstays. That's not good, man. You don't need that, man. And I'm telling you, having him there with Scotty, your personality's got to mesh. And that personality combo is not one I like right now, man. No way.
No. I mean, to put things in perspective, Wiggins was known before the Warriors, where he was elevated too high in a team, that he was known as a floater, which is not ideal.
No, and he still floats. But he's on a team now, got guys can back him up when he's floating those days. Like, he still floats. So
he still floats. Right.
So on a team or a market that will have expectations, as if he's still Maple Jordan, and he's rolling out here floating on a given night on a Wednesday night against Chicago, I can only see what it's going to be like. And there's also a certain type of weight in a mindset where he's still a guy in this case that's going to want expectation to have a certain amount of shots. So like once again, what are we doing? So no, I don't want any part of that deal. I want no part of a Wiggins deal. And I mean, we'll get to the next guy in a second, but it's in some ways very similar in certain parts of the aspects of it. But like, yeah, the Wiggins thing, I don't see the rationale for that in this case here for any player in this case.
So I'm just in terms of the Butler situation, I don't see it as a buyout situation. He has a player option for next year, so you'd have to buy him out and also convince him. The buyout would have it would just no, it's not going to happen because you'd have to have the player agree. And why would he get bought out and leave? What is it, $58 million on the table? I just don't see that happening. Not without some sort of an extension, and he would never get that money back.
Is there a third team that we're not thinking of right now? Because I feel there's a third team.
Go for it. Which team do you think?
I don't think Denver's out of this just yet.
For Butler?
Yeah. And in some ways, that would be the team that would make the most sense.
Yeah, but the problem is they have to trade Michael Porter Jr., and I don't know who's taking that contract because.
Well, if Pat Riley keeps yapping his mouth like this, he may have no choice.
That is true.
Walking back a little bit from the table.
Yeah, but they're stuck with Bradley Beal, right?
Right. And their hands are tied. That's all I'm saying. So, like, your options are getting limited. Butler is now making it increasingly more difficult. You and your big mouth haven't made things much easier. You only got 6 days to figure this out because there's no way you want to go past February 6th. So, like, Denver might come at the last second and say, here, man, take it or leave it. MPJ, and call it a day. And hey, you're a team that likes to shoot threes. There's one thing Michael Porter Jr. does a lot of. He'll do that.
I just want to comment on the Wiggins thing to Toronto. I actually think he's a better fit with Scotty and Barrett than Ingram is. That's for sure. Let's use that just for a second. Not the money.
You're going with it. Yep.
Wiggins better cutter. Wiggins better defender. I think he probably would fit better in their offense. Ingram is very ball dominant. He likes to kind of operate a lot in the mid range. In a vacuum, I would say like Wiggins is the better fit, but I don't like you. I don't like the money. And like you said before, mercurial personality. But of the two, if I had a choice, I think Wiggins is a better fit over Ingram. That's just me.
Fair enough. Yep. I can see the rationale behind that. Yeah.
Just in terms of this, the Wiggins would be one of the main pieces, as well as like a Gary Payton the second, of course, and probably Moses Moody or something like that. So it's just kind of I think Moses Moody has been talked about. So yeah, that would kind of get you relatively close to that level.
Well, they want Kuminga. That's what they want, right?
True. That's the other one I keep forgetting is Kuminga. So, but again, do the Heat want to play Kuminga? I don't know.
I think they're more interested in playing Kuminga. Like, based on what I'm hearing, I think they could see him as part of a core moving forward with him and Bam and Hero.
Okay. I mean, but last time I heard they want to keep the powder dry for, 2026.
Well, trust me, don't get me wrong. They'll, as much as they say how much they love and Heat culture, they'll flip one of them dudes a heartbeat to get the guy they want. Trust me.
Right. Okay, fair enough. I mean, we will see. Someone was asking, I think it was Frank was asking, let me just find it really quickly. Sorry about this dead space, people. Someone was asking specifically about the picks that the Knicks have. So yeah, we covered that. I think, I think this was it. They have 2 second rounders. So that would be one of the things that you could cover there. I mean, it is what it is. Paul, is he talking about Paul Watson?
Yeah.
I mean,
or not Paul Watson. What's his name?
I know who he's talking about.
Yeah, the Watson kid. He's
Watson
good. They're not going to include him for Boucher.
Okay, so it's not Paul Watson. Okay.
He's a second-year guy, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's like, can
it's
you
get
Christian
UCLA.
Braun? You're not going to get Christian Braun kind of a thing, right? So, and Milwaukee for Butler, I posted it online once. I just don't see, it's really difficult to make it happen without the Suns. There is a world where we can do it without the Suns, and I did do that version of it. But then you have to have a front office that's willing to flip out Porter. Now, there was a way that we did it or worked out, but it's still not easy to do. So let's just get right into the interesting stuff of the day, which is Ingram. Now, I will go into this first. Ingram to the Nets will happen. I don't think so. That would be a weird fit with him and Cam Thomas.
They're the only ones with money. Max
They are. That is true. So Mark Stein reported that there and others have basically reported that we have interest. The Raptors have interest in potentially acquiring Brandon Ingram. Okay, so we will talk about what a trade will look like in a second, but I will first ask the two of you if you want Ingram first, and B, is there a world where Ingram actually makes sense? And then we will look at potential deals where it could happen. Coach, I did not go to you first last time, so you are first this time. Are you excited about potentially getting Brandon Ingram?
In a vacuum, Scotty and Ingram, I think, could be interesting because they're both opposites in a sense. Ingram can really get his shot off in the mid-range. Scotty's better defender. Ingram's an okay defender. I just don't get if you're rebuilding why you're going to commit so much money to a guy who's going to be a free agent this year because he's going to demand $35 to $40 million. That means you're going to have to trade RJ Barrett. You can't do this with just Brown and Boucher. That's not going to work. And I get the feeling that's what Masai was trying. He's trying to fleece them a little bit. We'll offer you these expiring contracts and just let it take it from there. But I think you'd have to give up RJ. You have to give up some long-term money to get Ingram. And the other thing is, why'd you trade Siakam last year? Why'd you just re-sign him, who you know is going to be healthy, who you know is going to play both ends of the court? I like Ingram actually, but he don't play defense. I've watched him enough, and he's hurt. That's the biggest thing. What's the old saying? The best availability is the
best ability is availability.
Sorry, yeah. Ask the Clippers about Kawhi Leonard right now, how that's going for the most part. Sure, when he plays, he's good, and he also plays defense as well. Yeah, I don't get it, but based on what Jake Fisher said and Mark Stein said, Masai really loves Brandon Ingram of all people. I mean, he's a nice player, but it's going to be 28. You're going to have to sign him to a max deal. You're looking at $40 million to commit to someone who's 28 when your star player is 23.
It will be at least a 5-year, $200 million contract.
Yeah,
realistically,
me, find your co-star in May or June.
Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts, but beyond, you go first.
So let me start with what the president of basketball operations of this team just mentioned.
Oh, can you speak up, beyond?
So Coach referred to this reference that Masai mentioned about how he loves Brandon Ingram. Now I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, was this the man in this case like 2 years ago that said, hey, you know what? I think, we play too selfish. We have too many guys here just thinking about, shots in this case here. And I want to have a much more moving of the ball, a much more aesthetically pleasing style of basketball, enough of the one-on-one stuff. And I'm like, did I go in the bizarro world, or I go into some type of alternate universe where Brandon Ingram is this, moving without the ball guy that, that just kind of finds a spot and kind of circles around and, goes on pin downs and stuff like that, and shoots a high percentage and doesn't pound the ball out? Like, I must have missed something here. Like, are we serious? Which just proves the point that this front office has no idea when it comes to vision of what they're talking about, quite honestly. Because this is the same man who had said before the season started, either this year or last year, we want to play more like the Nuggets, like Jokic. Does Brandon Ingram, he's a guy that fits in that type of offense? We went through a whole year and change of clearing it out to get guys that play the right way, supposedly. Okay. So now we're gonna go and try to trade for Brandon Ingram. who's had one All-Star appearance, had one great performance against Phoenix. I'm not taking anything away from him. He looked great. And I think that's probably the intoxication that has got Masai and saying like, oh my gosh, imagine out on this team. Yeah, when it's going right for Brandon Ingram, it is something to behold. There's no two ways about it. It looks like mini Kevin Durant. You're like, holy cow, what are we watching? But you gotta, it ends up being like Haley's comment, folks. You gotta wait like about like 40 every 40 games to get one of those type of games. Like I don't know where the vision is on this team. 1 second they want one thing, second thing they want another thing. It goes back to our discussion. Are you going all in, or are you playing for the draft picks? And they don't have a clue what they're doing. So like, I'll go this part. I thought just from the standpoint of playing the game from the floor, I don't like the fit. I think for the various reasons I mentioned before, he's very ball dominant, and that's fine, but he's not effective ball dominant, right? There's ball dominant guys are effective. You know, like prime James Harden, he's ball dominant. He's real effective when he's ball dominant. This is not this, right? This is not LeBron James, right? Like this is not that type of ball dominant when they're in their prime and stuff like that. Brandon Ingram's gonna shoot about 40-something% from the field. You know, he's not any great 3-point shooter. You know, he's moderate in this case, and he takes a lot of long perimeter twos, which I thought that these guys don't like. You know, so I don't know what else to say when I see what's going on here. I'm just shocked by the fact that this is even a discussion. As far as what's going on around Brandon Ingram, the talks, I think one of the things that's funny is that the moment the Toronto's discussion came out, all of a sudden you heard rumors of Brooklyn, rumors of Atlanta. And that tells me one of two things. Either A, the Pelicans are trying to gin up some type of support for him, because they want to build up some type of market for him. Or B, that's Brandon Ingram's people trying to say, hey, man, we don't want to go to Toronto, you know, and trying to put out some false rumors. Hey, man, you know, Brooklyn's kind of interested in us. You know, Atlanta's kind of interested in us. So keep those things in mind when you see these type of things coming out, because that's the other thing, too. You mentioned signing a deal. Will he sign for the money? Sure he will. Well, that means, is he happy to hang around here? That's another issue you have to consider. So that's my thoughts on it. I'm just baffled by like how we got here, but hey, we'll see in about 5 days or 6 days.
Yeah, I think just how do I tackle this? Ingram on this team with its current iteration, where people are talking about. Let me backtrack a bit. Got to look at the incentives. Okay, so the Pelicans want to get under the tax because they are a very expensive team. They're very injured. They have young players that they're trying to shift towards. That's why they got rid of JV, which they probably should have kept JV. But yeah, so they're trying to get cheaper. So in any deal with them for Brandon Ingram, they want primarily expirings. They don't want to take money back. And if they do, they don't want to take a whole ton of money unless they can sell that as a ticket. So at the end of the day, a lot of people in the world are just trying to sell a ticket. Ticket in the shape of a book, ticket in the shape of entertainment, ticket in whatever. So here is where Brandon Ingram comes in, because he wants his money, and I believe they offered him like a 3-year deal. Like they basically were comfortable giving him his money, but not at term. They didn't want to lock him up for 5 years. Now, to your point, I always think of two things. How often is a player available on the court, and not only how available are they on to be in the court, but throughout an 82-game series this season and playoffs. And also then I look at the fit, because I think talent wins out in the end. Brandon Ingram is talented. Brandon Ingram is not available all the time. So I have concerns. If you're talking about timeline, does he fit the timeline? I don't know. He's not spring chicken anymore, especially since every single person's age 22 season is not the same. He's had a lot of mileage on his bones. I believe it was Boardman Gets Paid. Shout out to you, Andre. I can't find it, but they essentially mentioned that, you know, there's an IQ imagination of a deal. They ain't taking back IQ. They want to get off money. and they want to be able to sell stuff. And guess what? They also have a point guard that they just traded for 3 picks and prospects in DeJounte Murray, who just went down. So I don't get the point of getting IQ.
Can we just also recall, because people like to have revisionist history or amnesia. I must have missed this, but I'm pretty sure the Pelicans were in the play-in last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe in this case, the first game. I sat there and watched that game. Willie Green did not play the man.
Nope.
Okay, just remember that. A playing game with the season on the line, Willie Green, he ain't like Pat Riley or prime Pat Riley or Popovich or something where he's good for life as the coach. And he said, like, you know what? I'll take the chance. You can sit beside me for the game in a playing game. Now,
DeJounte?
No, this ain't Brandon Ingram.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Him. So keep this in mind, folks. That all y'all so excited. Like the new president at the Christmas tree. You might end up cold in your stocking, folks, because that's what was going on here just a few months ago. All right. The fact that Zion had pretty much played out of his mind and scored 40 and something, 20 in this case, like that game. And that's got to the second play opportunity where they end up losing. But keep this in mind that when that was on the line, Willie Green said, you know what? I'm good. You can sit beside me, dude. That is an indictment of exponential proportion as a player.
Right. Well, here's the biggest thing, too. You mentioned this. I think you mentioned it on a space, actually. It's not just Ingram right now that's the issue. It's Masai. Is he feeling desperate enough to go get a guy? Is he feeling that pressure from Keith Pelly to go get a guy now? Sell me something now. Put an elite score next to Scotty now, which is very interesting because this is probably the most pressure Masai has felt since he's been with the Raptors. I never thought it'd be kind of this early to a rebuild. Maybe so.
I did.
What do you think?
I certainly did. I said that he's going into this year, and the questions about his contract situation and having a new boss made him very defensive in his answers. So that right there told me a lot. And I think that you have to be very mindful of, are you going for job preservation or not? And this seems like a move that's a job preservation move rather than like a visionary move. A visionary move might also get you fired or might not get you the respect that you deserve, but people will look back and say, okay, that was the right move. I don't know if Brandon Ingram is the right move. I would suggest that it is not the right move. To get into the frameworks of a Brandon Ingram deal, and before I get into that, you brought up Markkanen. Not exactly, but the problem with Markkanen is not the same as Brandon Ingram, but you have a problem with team construction. So if you are trading only expirings for Brandon Ingram, right, and you do that, the problem of getting Brandon Ingram and sitting him next to RJ and sitting him next to IQ is, or potentially Grady, is you have a guy who is a space cadet on defense. As good as he is at times on offense, he is not a good defender and has not been for a long time. There was questions of could he be a good defender? I'm going back to the early Pelicans days, some of the Lakers days. He has not been a good defender. He gets lost in transition, not a good communicator. There's times when even LeBron, when he was first there, pointing stuff out to him, and he would still miss it out. No. So Daniel Franklin is getting into what I was going to say is that the one imagination of this deal that makes sense is you give them an expiring plus RJ. It's the only thing that makes sense because there's not enough ball to go around, first of all. But also just in terms of like, I guess the question is, do they want to pay RJ his money versus pay someone else? And I guess if they do this deal, that would be the question. Because the other thing is, if I'll use NC for change as thing. okay, we're too expensive if we keep Siakam, which wouldn't necessarily have been the truth, but I'm not here to go through all of that. That's not this show. Even if you were that expensive, 190 for IQ, RJ, Scotty, all that, you're very close, if not over the apron. Not good. It makes it very hard to make moves after that. And so the only thing that makes sense is more than likely RJ going out. So does this make sense? There is a world, and I think Will has alluded to it, which is that you would get Brandon Ingram, sit him for the rest of the season, pay him his money, the $40 million per year, whatever. Across, they said 35, but let's be honest, it's probably 35 in the first year, and then it scales up to 50 in the end of the year. So, end of the contract. So, yeah, the real question becomes one of, can you sit Brandon Ingram, and then you're making a gamble and you're hoping that you win out with Cooper Flag, and that, or one of those top 3 or 4 guys, and then now you're rolling with talent. And the answer is, if that happens, it could work. It is mighty risky. And I don't know if it's worth the price of admission, especially since someone, it might have been Will, suggested maybe it might be you're giving up second rounders. You're getting Brandon Ingram. We're not in a place to give up second rounders or any part of our future when we have just barely gotten control of our own future.
I think that to Will's point, and Coach mentioned this yesterday, I think the two tie together. That if you're playing that long game, you say, okay, just heal up for the rest of the season and we'll start next year with you. So be it. Do that. Then it goes to Coach's point last night when we spoke offline, or 2 nights ago, when all this Brandon Ingram stuff started bubbling. Are they thinking that they're good going a few draft picks down, and they think they could get, quote, their guy? Which, to Coach's point, don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on this if it's the case, but could a guy like VJ Edgecombe or Malawatch be what they're looking at as a pick a little further down, say at 6 or 7 or 5 or 8, and then they do what Will is suggesting here on the screen? Because that might be what they are thinking if they are going ahead with this deal.
Yeah, you can't. I think if you were bringing Ingram and re-sign him with Scotty, what's the point of having Flag then? You know what I mean?
Bailey, right?
Or Bailey for that point. Yeah, you're just stunting their own development, and then you become incredibly smaller. I'm assuming that would impact Grady. So, like you said before, do you like someone at 7 or 8 to bring in? I guess the question.
Yeah. So I've created a couple just frameworks for deals of how it could look. This does not include any pick equity one way or the other, just the general player frameworks for the deals. So there's basically 3 basic frameworks. We'll go through them one at a time. I'll kind of make them a little bigger. So first of all, is the screen size decent?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I can make it out. Yeah.
Okay. I can.
I'm not sure about the audience, but
is that better?
That's better.
That's
okay.
Better.
So this one would be RJ Barrett and Boucher. There's other ways to make it work, but it seems like Kelly's well integrated. I always say anytime there's a commercial in this town. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. So Brandon Ingram for RJ and Chris Boucher would be the generalized thing. The notion is Zion and RJ could play together. They've always liked playing together. RJ tried to get Zion into New York and vice versa. So at least they're boys. They get to chill together. Boucher would be their expiring, but he also provides them a little bit of help as they try to chase whatever they're trying to chase or build something. It provides them with something.
So we call this the Canuck package.
This is the Canuck package. Exactly. Yes, exactly. Is that good for you guys to see?
Yeah.
Okay, so this would be the Boucher package. Now, the Boucher package would probably have to include all of them are going to be Boucher. Boucher is going to be part of it.
This is the B&B package right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the Airbnb package. So then I guess the nice thing about getting Brandon Ingram is you still get to call yourself the BBQ at some level. Either that or it might be the BBB, the Better Business Bureau.
Triple B, Ball Brothers.
Exactly, Big Baller Rat. This would probably have to include some sort of pick equity going to the Pelicans, which is why I don't like this. Even if it's just a second rounder, I don't really like the idea. It's very risky to get Brandon Ingram, especially with his injury history. And also you become very expensive very quickly because you're not just adding, say he's making 36 million right now, but 40 million next year or whatever it ends up being. But you're also adding in that Barnes' money is going to kick in. Barrett's still making his money. Pirtle's still getting paid, and IQ's still on the books. Yeah, it's a lot of a commitment for a team that right now is not looking so hot right now. Okay. The final one is a variation where Olynyk's going out, and this also still works. Those are kind of the generalized frameworks. There's ways to get out of with Davion going out or Ochai going out as well, but it gets more complex with those deals in terms of what the Pelicans are trying to give up. And I think that the main thing that they're trying to give up is they want to reduce the amount of cap that they are holding moving forward. So, did any of those interest you guys?
There's one that I thought you missed there where you got longer term money is going out. That's RJ and Kelly.
Yes. But the RJ and Kelly thing is a much more difficult deal because I think, if I'm not mistaken, it put them a little bit over.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah. So it's. I know you don't want to give up RJ and Boucher, but unfortunately,
no, that's probably have to be the deal. Look, any deal involving Ingram, you probably do have to give up RJ. The question is, do you want to give up RJ for Ingram if you have no assurances he's going to resign? And just based on the year RJ's had, the Canadian thing, I don't know.
There's one other deal, and I know he's saying they don't want to take on more money, but this one is plausible based on their situation. There is an IQ deal that could be done. And because Mr. Murray's out and it doesn't look good with his injury, we know CJ McCollum is not long for the Crescent City. So they're gonna want something from a guard standpoint. As far and Murray, let's face it, we know one thing with Murray. Murray wants the ball in his hands as the quote point guard. And if he plays it quickly, he can actually do that without worrying about it. Because quickly can run off screens.
So what is this?
So it's an IQ deal where IQ's out the door is the main piece, and then you can fill it in with whoever you want, Boucher or whoever you want to fill in there.
Is there a move? Just spitting here. I really hate these types of deals. Is there a move where IQ and RJ go out for Ingram? IQ, RJ, and Ingram. Sorry.
You need somebody up from New Orleans, right?
Yeah. IQ, RJ, and Boucher for Ingram and CJ McCollum.
Well, how much CJ got left in this deal? Is it this year?
It's next year's the last year. That's why I'm trying to get you to what you want.
I don't really like CJ on the team for extra year. That's the only thing.
I don't like it either. That's why I'm like.
I know, but
you brought up the CJ thing, so I'm just trying to go with what you.
Okay, this is where I do like it. The deal that you're talking about, it opens up possibilities to go back to the top three. Because now
by getting CJ and by the way, the deal doesn't even work. By the way, they're giving up. Yeah, they'd have to give up more. So that's where it gets. As soon as if I have to make two trade imaginations, I give up.
Well, I guess you guys don't have to throw in like GTA in there, right?
Yeah, that's that.
He would be a player that would fit that range.
No, because he makes too little money. He's making $1.9 million. They have to give him $5 million worth of salary. And you're not going to get Trey Murphy.
Hey, you know me, boy. You have to tell me twice, man. If that was the deal, I was like, "Yo, where do I sign?"
I don't see a CJ McCollum. I hear you. They would like it, but I just don't.
Oh, you make me wonder just to think of possibilities with the third. Don't.
I know. Hey, I like him too. I love Trey Murphy III, but
He said last
no.
year he's untouchable, man. Ah, damn it.
I think the only legitimate deal you probably got with Ingram is the first one Kenyon had with Barrett and Boucher. You get up a little bit of long-term money with Barrett. Boucher comes off the books anyway. That's because you can't. I'd love to see a Barrett, Ingram, and Barnes in a vacuum. In theory, I would, but we just know. Once you see that, it's not going to work. Not offensively.
Okay.
That's the only deal I don't mind so much because like to your point, you're swapping essentially 123 point per game score for another 23 point per game score. Essentially, they did different ways, but you have that move off of Boucher finally, so which opens up a roster spot for someone that's good. And it gives you some flexibility that if you get a top 3 draft pick, it's tough to get one of the big wings, but Harper and BJ are possibilities with that type of roster.
Yeah.
You move off like IQ at some point later on.
Okay, so I'm gonna I did do Will's trade suggestion. I did it just now. I can put it on the screen if it's easier.
Yeah, please do, because he can't be talking about who I think he's talking about.
He is talking about who you think he is talking about.
Will, come on now. You can't be serious, man. Please don't.
Okay, you see this is this so this would be the idea. It is successful.
Nurkic got 2 years on that deal. Yeah.
But I mean, you like I will say this: Nurkic, if you sit him, right, just for the pick, just get the extra pick. Fine. I'm actually okay with this. I'm more okay with this than the Ingram deal because I want picks. I want to stock up the cupboard.
Okay. Let me be. You're right. Okay, I'll play devil's advocate. Here's the good thing: he's 7 feet tall, so that's good. At least we got guys.
And he chews up.
Right, exactly. So there we go. We have that point. To your point, yes. Next thing is the draft pick, and based on how things look for Phoenix, that could be a pretty decent pick. So I agree on those 2 fronts.
Well, that's Cleveland's pick.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. Oh, it's
this is via Utah, Cleveland, or Minnesota. So, Kenny, I'm guessing that would be the worst pick of them.
I mean, they have other picks, but that's just the pick. He's the one with the trade proposal. It's not my trade proposal.
Via Utah, Cleveland, or Minnesota. Is it saying that they could take one of those picks?
There's an OKC pick as well.
So that pick is that Utah's pick or Cleveland's pick or Minnesota's pick you can pick from?
Yeah. You're wondering like how does the pick this specific pick?
How is that conveyed? I'm looking here via what like.
Okay, I'm sorry. But Utah will receive the most or 2 most favorable. Okay, this is just some complicated thing. Let's just assume that it's probably going to be Cleveland.
Okay, Will said it's the worst pick of them.
Yeah, so probably Cleveland.
So Cleveland.
Okay,
that's
there you go.
30.
Do you want the 30th pick in this draft? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, no, there's a money component, right? If I get like a high second round pick, why would I go and get the first pick in this draft?
Because our second round pick isn't that high. That's the problem. Our second round pick.
You make a deal for someone else to get their second round pick that might be a little higher.
Like the Celtics.
I mean, if they have one in the low 30s,
they're the 31st pick.
Right, like Boston. Yeah, trade Boucher to Boston, get that pick. I'd rather do that.
There's nothing there for you though. Unless they're trading Al Horford, which they are not.
No, they're not. Because I'm thinking to myself, when you get the 30 pick, man, the money is what I'm thinking of. Like, geez,
I hear you. I hear you. There is a difference in the money, and it's non-guaranteed and stuff like that. Yeah. But at the same time, like, because here's how I look at it. If you have multiple picks, even if it's not the picks that you want, in a better draft than it was last year, you ask yourself what is the value of a pick in this draft? Well, you might find out, and at least that way you can use the 2 later picks to actually move up.
I see what you're saying. I guess I'm very cautious, or I say I'm not really expecting much from this organization to be that creative like you, Kenyon.
I don't either, but
No.
there is the possibilities do exist.
They will draft
is all
4
I'm
guys
saying.
next year again, right? That's what they would do, right?
Because it's like Brooklyn is an interesting team because they are bringing it. They have 3 or 4 draft picks, right?
Right.
Is what they have. They're not going to pick all. They're not going to use all of those 4 picks. They might use 3 of the picks in their top pick to move up from the 6th to the 3rd.
All right. So I would throw this back to Will. If Nurkic is on the move and we're willing to take Nurkic, how come we can't facilitate some type of Jimmy Butler deal with that?
Because again, it comes back down to the fact that with Jimmy Butler, you need Beal out.
Well, okay, we resurrect the deal we were working on the other day with Milwaukee.
But Middleton has to go somewhere. Do they want Middleton? You see, this is the problem. This is the problem with trades, people.
Yeah, Middleton. Yeah, Middleton. I don't think Miami's not looking for Middleton.
I'm just looking at it from this Raptors perspective with the Nurkic deal. Pirtle and Nurkic in your next year on that. I don't know if I like that. I get it. Will's point. I think it's just the pick. I get that. Yeah. But because you're not going to get a higher pick for Boucher than that, probably. That's the highest you're probably going to get. But that if Nurkic had a year left on his deal, I'm in. Just a year. But if he's here next year, that might be tough to move that contract too. So I'm just like,
yeah,
I'd rather have a younger center come in.
Yeah, but at least he provides some size. Like, I mean, we got no size right now. But like, I hear you. I don't like that part of it. I'd rather just go and take the deal that you were talking about earlier with Denver. To me, that's the deal. And if you get Holmes as part of it, man, sign me up. Like, that's the deal I want.
I agree.
I get 2 young bigs. If one of them comes out and promises it comes out, well, great. If not, I'll use my man's term aside. I have the flexibility now to do some other stuff. That's his term. So that's why,
I gotta find that. I made it a Phoenix trade. I'm not gonna put it up on screen. People are gonna get an aneurysm or whatever from. It was like a 5-team trade to get Oh,
you mean the one we were doing the other day?
Yeah, where I did it for fun. I just
and then the Lakers one we had in there too.
Yeah. So
you're not that far off.
I'm not. Yeah. It's. Yeah, Kelly stays, Brown. Yeah, there's a world to get Jimmy Butler there and to have us facilitate with Milwaukee. Pat Connaughton has to come here, and we have to find a new home if Miami doesn't want the home for Chris Middleton. And it would have to be Portis as well. So let's just assume Middleton to Miami, Portis, Connaughton here. That works for Bruce Brown somehow. Now, there's more parts of this deal. I think you'd have to take on the equivalent of like Kevin Love's type money coming here. I'm fine with that. But the point is that it just gets overly complex. So, yeah.
Let me ask you guys this, and I mean, I'll throw it out to everyone listening.
Sorry, I just want to touch on this real quick. He does have team options, but if I'm not mistaken, the first 2 years are guaranteed. But also, it's like, so it's more of like the latter 2 years. Do you opt into those? I'm not worried about that. I think you give him a chance and go for it. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
No, I'm just okay. I'm going to throw it out here as like, okay, let's use what Grange had in his article from Evan Siddery via Evan Siddery. You mentioned the 4 names: Mitchell, Brown, Boucher, Olynyk.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go 2 parts. One, how many of these guys are here at the same time next weekend?
I'll put a percentage, 70%.
No. I'm just saying, if you think 2 of the 4 guys, 3 of the 4 guys, 0 of the 4 guys, 1 of the 4 guys.
I think all
are still here next week?
There's a very big possibility that all are still here, man.
Okay, Coach, you think all 4 will be here next week?
2.
2 will be here next week. I'm with you. I think 2 of them are gone. I don't know which 2 it will be. I have a sneaking suspicion is the 2 guys is the B&B boys. I think the 2 of them are out the door.
You think Brown and Boucher are gone, yeah. Kelly and who is the 4th?
Mitchell.
Okay.
Davion's interesting though because he makes the least amount of all those contracts. He could easily be moved, and there's an argument for a playoff team that might struggle with perimeter defense. That obviously he doesn't play that much, but in a pinch. That's a cheap contract.
There's an additional person that you haven't mentioned that has been mentioned in these reports.
I know. I left him out on purpose because I know he's a little more of he has a contract already.
He's a bit more of a well, yeah, that is true. He does he's under contract next year.
His contract's a longer term one, so I said let me just leave him out for the time being. But I would move him too, to be quite honest with you. But let's just stick with the 4 guys that are kind of on the chopping block. But to your point, Coach, you could make almost that same argument, just flip the rationale and say, you want bench scoring and say Boucher. Boucher's contract is nothing.
No, it's nothing.
And yet somehow we're making the lift of all time. Like we're trying to move in this. We're trying to move I don't know, take your pick. Like it's we're trying to move Zion's contract or something like that. I understand what's going on with this contract, but I think they're trying to parlay it into a bigger star. I do think that. I think that's the reason why he hasn't been moved yet. They're hoping to throw him into a bigger deal. Instead of, once again, go back to Bobby Webster's point. Instead of playing singles and doubles, we're trying to get home runs all the time, man. And grand slam.
That's part of the problem is that you could definitely get a second rounder for some of these guys. I mentioned a deal a long time ago that didn't happen, but, the Dennis Schroeder deal could have been our deal, Boucher in the place of Dennis Schroeder, where they got 3 seconds.
Right.
And they just took on literally a dude that is not around this year because he's injured. And you take him on, you let him rehab in the facility, doesn't hurt the tank at all. DeAnthony Melton, I actually like DeAnthony Melton, but unfortunately he's not playing. So there you go. So yeah, there is that. I agree.
I would, you know what? This is a trade show. Okay. So let's get with it. Let's take off the gloves. All right. The Ochai discussion. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Look,
yep.
let's be honest with it. He
might have people yelling at us. Ooh.
For guys averaging 5 points a game, I'm losing sleep over that, man. Give me a break. Look, what is he down to 7? I lost track what his point per game is now. But anyhow, moving if Ochai,
by the way, Will, you have a good point. Is that if we facilitate the Jimmy Butler trade with Golden State, Dennis might be saying, "Hello, Darko."
Oh, God.
And then he might be on the Hello Welcome show saying hello and welcome.
They will cut him. They would give him the Dinwiddie treatment. That would be
grand opening, grand closing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. He'd be gone in a split second. It'd
be funny, though.
It would be funny. But,
Andre, I don't think him alone is going to get you a first rounder. But what will happen is that if you traded him at the draft to move up in the draft, that could be a thing. But it depends on how high you're going. So say Malawatch is in the 15th spot. You trade yours with the right team who's trying to kind of get back or get an unguaranteed contract. That might be an opportunity for you.
Honestly, I think I don't know what you guys think of this, but I think Olynyk to me would get more value in that position than Ochai.
Why?
Because I think Olynyk has a skill set that people are still enamored with. They forget that he's a corpse on defense, but they just see oh my God, he can pass, he can shoot threes. He's 6'11". It's hey man, we need this. The GM.
Okay. There's 2 parts of this. Yeah. There's the people in khakis, and then there's the hoopers. The hoopers would want Kelly Olynyk. The people in khakis might, who are looking at the spreadsheet and how the financials are going, they would want Ochai.
Yeah, well, Kelly's only got 1 year left.
He does, but Ochai's next year is cheaper, and he is a restricted free agent.
But he's also 6'4". I could find one of those guys.
Yeah, but that's where the spreadsheet couldn't go the next column.
Right? Yeah, right. Because they can shoot threes, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I can see a place where I can pin him with my guy here to play pick and pop with my guard, or in this case with my big. In this case, that wants to be in the post. Oh, I can put that guy. I can see that. There's teams where I can see someone talk themselves into it. I can see Philadelphia talking themselves into Kelly Olynyk. Right?
Yeah.
There's teams off top of my head. I can say, you know what? Golden State, I get why Golden State would make sense for Golden State. With him and Steph, I get that. There's teams where
Golden State's also interested in Vucevic. So in some way, it's
same type of player.
An extremely budget version of Vucevic at some level.
Exactly. So there's teams out there where that some skill sets in this league people are so enamored with that sometimes even the pencil protectors, the pocket protector guys, enamored with it because they're only looking at that one analytics. Oh my gosh, he shoots 38% from 3. It's wherever his number is, and they always you can pass. Like, so I think that part there, he could get moved, I think, in the offseason for something, I think. More so than Ochai. I think Ochai, people see 6'4" guy that's a decent 3-point shooter from the corners, and he doesn't do much else.
That's fair. I mean, he does play decent defense. I think it can be sometimes a little bit overrated, to be fair. But yeah, really quickly, Yak to the Grizzlies for Smart and picks. I don't see it happening, and we already have a mini version of Marcus Smart that we are trying to trade. So no, I don't. Marcus Smart is an interesting concept, but it's what if I were to go back in time. The one deal that I was really interested in was the Drew Holiday potential deal. It was a risky deal, but that was the deal that I would have, me personally, I would have went for, and we'd be in a different situation. We don't have to go down that, but yeah, I just don't see this deal when you have. Sorry,
Drew Holiday might have retired that day.
He might have. He might not have. We'll see. No, because I don't think he was going to retire once he got traded. Because I think he was pissed off with the Bucks for trading him, because he wanted to retire as a Buck, and then it was like, no, I'm coming back. So, but yeah, I feel like you're already loaded at the guard spot. You look at the top of the draft outside of Cooper Flagg, it's like someone's getting bumped anyways, and so it just creates a logjam that you have to answer. I know people have focused on the Yak deal. I don't think that there's a Yak deal until summer, potentially on how the draft goes, and even then, there might not be a Yak deal until the middle of next year.
And we haven't said this yet. I'm surprised. We talked about offline, but we haven't said it yet. But I'm gonna put it on record for all you Brandon Ingram guys out here. Why don't you just wait 3 months? In this case, you have a better version with a higher ceiling of him. And you've been the number 2 pick.
That is the actual funny thing, because when I was watching Brandon Ingram and how he moves, I was like, he moves a lot like Ace, but Ace has a much higher upside.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, so all these guys here all say, oh, Brandon Ingram's my guy. And they don't want to be down in Ace Bailey's. Like, have you looked in the mirror? Like, really? Seriously, guys? And honestly, in college, he's a way more advanced in college than he was in college. Ingram was.
Yeah.
No, man. Let's get with it.
Well, let me ask you guys. Odds that Ingram is a Raptor by next week.
I think I told you a couple.
45. I've gone up since yesterday.
I've dropped. I'm down to 30%.
Yeah, I'm somewhere between you both, because there's multiple. Like, I'm definitely interested in this guy, but if you're going to part with RJ, I think that's a big thing to do, and I just don't see him doing it.
I've never seen the Raptors when they're in a moment where they're in big game hunting mode with other teams pull off the deal.
Oh, there is another deal that I forgot to talk about. There's 2 other things. The Hawks, first of all, with Ingram.
Yeah. And
we're forgetting that the Heat have also discussed Brandon Ingram for Jimmy Butler.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that the Heat deal works, because it's just weird. It would be a weird move for the Pelicans to.
Well, you said they want to get off money. Is Jimmy going to sign in and opt in for another year with Zion?
He might. He might opt in and say, then trade me.
Yeah, it's true too. He might do that, and with him, it's quite possible. So it's
Ingram doesn't make sense for the Hawks. If you got Reese Shea, I know Johnson's out for the year. Or you could play BI at the 4, who's hurt all the time. You have to trade Hunter in that deal, make the money work.
Ingram made more sense during the offseason, especially to me, my perfect offseason for the Hawks last year. Drafts are trade for Ingram.
Trade for Ingram.
Now you're rolling.
Sarr, Johnson, Ingram. Now you have something there with Trey and Daniels.
Yeah, but they didn't want to give up Bogey and all these weird things.
I think it could work in Atlanta. I think that's, of all the places they've talked about, they think that's his best spot to go, because you'll have a point guard that can kind of manage him well enough that he's not going to be looking for the shots, but you'll get his shot.
Oh my gosh, James!
Don't do it, James.
It ain't that deep, James. Don't worry.
Yeah, man, it ain't that serious. Don't worry about James. Yeah, enjoy life, man. But like Ingram does make sense in some
If
because
you
when you
jump
watch,
off the bridge, you won't get a chance to listen to more of the cookout.
exactly, man. Like when they played Toronto the back to back, it was very apparent they don't have enough guys in this case to take the load off of Trey, right? Like it's like you watch it, it's too much dependency on Trey.
And then to your point now Risha Shea would have to be part of the deal, but they might be fine with that.
Yeah,
because you have another GM that's like he's in the hot seat and it's like Trey's putting the screws to him.
Yes, because he made the deal for Riche over Sarr because he didn't want to get fired, and he thought Sarr might get fired if it didn't go well. Well, that's not working out so well for him now because since Sarr right now is the lead person to win the Rookie of the Year, and I'm not saying Riche is not having a decent season; he's had some moments. But
yeah, yes, but we all knew that the ceiling was the roof with that one.
Never understood that phrase up to now.
I've never understood it either, but yeah.
Oh man, MJ. Oh geez, but yeah. I just think that getting him with Ingram now is like okay. Now you have a kind of two-headed monster, but once again, they're gonna have to have some guys play defense around them because that's a brutal. I mean, they're pretty bad already right now with the bunch they got right now. And if you're saying Hunter's gonna have to go out, what they got defensively, that's woo-wee. That's some ugly stuff right there. And with Johnson out now, they need some firepower there. So I can see Ingram being there. Like that makes sense.
Oh, Andre Jabari Smith. Yes, I did hear something about
so
that.
what is this notion
with Jabari Smith?
Yes.
Well, I'll have to put it. I did hear something about you might be trying to get him if he would make sense on this team. Like you coach Scotty, Jabari, and Pirtle.
What's going on around here? What's going on around here?
It's just so disappointing.
Are you trying to troll me today on this Saturday afternoon? Seriously, are you trying to troll me, Andre? Because everybody out here want to come after my man, the ace in the hole, and then they're giving me poor facsimiles they want to play beside Scotty. Why don't you just get the real deal and stop messing around with all these facsimiles? I don't understand what's going on in these streets, man. What next? Now you can tell me now. Who next you can give me now?
We have to give up RJ, I guess, for RJ still in Houston.
Okay, again, why are we still just get Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper or Cooper Flagg? I'm fine with any of them. Like just like because here's the thing: you get one of these guys, and then what happens to that, right? So you're gonna get Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper might be the only one in any of these trades outside of Cooper Flagg that he might be able to not have to play off the bench. But realistically, you're looking at guys that, okay, so you now have Brandon Ingram, and say everything works out, but you end up with a top 3 pick, and you get Ace Bailey. Are you telling me that Ace Bailey has to come off the bench?
What are we doing? This is the part I don't get either, too. We might win 20 games this year. And we got folks here like
come on now. We'll win more than 20 games. Barely.
They just said
so 23 is the Rubicon.
Hold on.
In terms of getting into the top 3.
A Pearl, season up to the bat for 5 games. How you looking then, huh? You still want to
say 23 is the threshold.
Okay, yeah. So my 28 that far off.
You don't think we can win 5 more games between now and the end of the season?
Dude, we had a 14-game losing streak at the end of the season last year. Why should I feel incompetence with this bunch? You already had 11-game streak.
Trust Masai.
All right? We've won, 3 games this year on the road? Like, come on now. Come on now.
Oh, last night made it abundantly clear.
This ain't going to go well, by the way.
Hey, Coach, but the part kills me is folks acting like in this case, like they rented out rooms that they own property here that they just get to have starting spots. Oh, a team's gonna win 20 or 23 games, according to my friend here. If you get 23 games, coach, you're a coach. Does anyone deserve their starting spot, really?
Rough. But I think I'm just saying last night made it completely obvious that was Masai and Bobby talking without talking. Last night was you had no reason to sit Chris Boucher after winning 5 games.
Hey man, what did I say on Twitter? And you said the same thing, Coach. Don't be fooled by his 5-game winning streak. You have Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher trying to look for freedom. That's what they're trying to do. They ain't thinking about nothing else. Yeah, the wins are great, but they're playing for their careers at this point. They ain't worried about the Raptors. They're playing for their next contract to see if they can still be in this league.
So this is the trade idea. Pirtle for Jabari Smith and DeJounte Tate. I don't know. I'm surprised that they wouldn't want to try to give you Cam Whitmore because Cam Whitmore wants to play and is butting heads. But yeah, I just don't see this move for the Rockets. I think that if they're going to go for someone, it's not going to be Pirtle. Why would they trade for Pirtle to be a backup to Sengun? That's a very expensive backup.
Yeah, Boucher would make a little bit of sense for them if they need just a stretch big. I could kind of see that, but
they're not going to give you Jabari Smith for Boucher.
No.
But Pirtle, I can tell you this much.
Sorry, 1 second. We talked about this already, actually. So
the main event.
So I just want to say we did actually cover this, and the notion was that they would do that, and we would sit Ingram. So we did actually cover this. Unfortunately, it's still risky. That's the main issue. So it's risky, and then it might the problem is that next year with the remaining team, because the only way to do that is that you're trading out RJ, and the notion is you sit RJ's production in Ingram, right? And you've lost that offensive weapon. But the problem is that does it shift who you're drafting next year? So if you get Ace Bailey, are you still interested in Ace Bailey who does the same things? Are you playing him off the bench? Is that the best idea? I mean, VJ might become more of a possibility, but then you're also how is the point guard play going? So it is a possibility, but yeah.
Well, I think the psychology is what ends up being different, because if you make the trade for Ingram, all of a sudden now your nucleus is Ingram. And I don't think anyone, they're being honest, even the biggest RJ fans think that RJ is a true nucleus of this team.
And I do agree. RJ off the bench would be great. I just don't think we're a good enough team to warrant having that conversation with him. If we were a better team, you could have that conversation for sure. But yeah, as long as you move out Olynyk, you can afford to pay. I mean, the challenge here is that you have to also move out RJ, because you can't. Sorry, Coach, I interrupted you, but
no, go.
Just to finish off this, you're looking at $190 million overall for everyone next year, with still some holes to fill, not including the draft pick. So you get extremely expensive without that. No, he has not. And in terms of the size toughness thing, if you're trading Pirtle, you're not getting size or toughness. I mean, you might get toughness. You're definitely not getting size.
Don't worry. We get Will's trade kicking, man. We get Nurkic, man. Don't worry about it. We make that deal.
Yeah. And just to really, yeah. So you don't have to trade RJ, but if you don't trade RJ, you get very expensive, because you're looking at paying Ingram somewhere in the neighborhood of he makes $36 million right now, probably $40 million when all is said and done, annual average value, and then you're looking at paying Scotty. Scotty already has his money, which is 30% of the cap. So that's whatever that is. That's another. You add it up, and it's 190, and you are going to be a first apron team just like that. So I do understand the point of this. I agree, but at the same time, I think that we're not just pigeonholing ourselves into this notion. We've explored all of the options, and this is one that we explored. But if given the thought, I would kind of lean against it. Coach, you go for it.
If we were to do this hypothetical thing, let's say we get Brandon Ingram, we sit him. You can't have Dylan Harper on this team, because then you got Harper ball dominant, Ingram ball dominant, and you still got Scotty, who is your franchise player trying to build around. It just doesn't make any sense. The only guy that makes a little bit of sense is Beyond's man.
BJ.
BJ does things that Grady does not do very well, which is defend, quite honestly.
Yep.
So if you had, I'm just using this as a hypothetical, Quickly and VJ, now it's a little smaller backcourt, but VJ plays bigger than his size. We all know that. And then you have Ingram and Barnes and Pirtle. you're not quite as ball dominant that way. Plus, your defense has a chance to get better. The only problem is, where does that put Grady? Where does that put Jacoby? That's the kind of the things that you might have to consider.
When it's all said and done, like, I mean, I know folks like RJ. I got no issue with RJ, but I think RJ and Quickly, when just even coach explanation there, those two dudes have to move at some point. And I don't know, the deal we have not considered yet, and I've heard no one mention, is a RJ for expiring contracts, the other way around.
I don't know who's trading that, though. That's the problem.
You know what? There's a sucker born every day, right? Like, I mean, even the NBA, they got a little smart, but they still got that smart. You could find somebody in this case. All they see is 24.
Is this true? Will, is this true?
We have news. Tree dog.
So I'm gonna just check the Shams, man, and we will see, because we might be able to break some news right now on this show.
Oh, here it is. Clippers trade PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba, and second-round pick for Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills.
Wow. Okay. Well, Patty Mills has kind of been like,
really.
This has shattered the NBA news.
So Clippers are off the board, as he said.
Yeah. So Clippers are off the board for Boucher. Wow. That is a trade. That's all I can say about it. Yeah, I mean, good for them. I mean, they traded 2 seconds, Tucker, Eubanks, so they're just basically getting off stuff they get so they get size and they get a vet who can shoot. Okay, and that's not bad. That's not bad. So yeah.
2 seconds. That's the part I find interesting, right? So you're looking for your Boucher market, 2 seconds.
I don't see why the Spurs would do this when they have a better version of that in Devin Vassell.
No,
and that's a big consolation. That's a big downgrade of a consolation prize if we're going to from De'Aaron Fox, who was all NBA last year, to RJ Barrett. All respect to RJ Barrett, but I think the challenge with Ingram, going back to my point, is defensively is where I have my concerns. Is mainly it, right?
One bad defender out for another.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but you have to still teach an old dog new tricks, right? And it takes time. So again, if Darko is such a magician, why didn't we make it work with other guys that were, to be fair, better and more talented than Brandon Ingram on both ends of the ball? And Brandon Ingram is talented. I saw Cool Cat, so shout out to you, ask about whether or not Brandon Ingram could space the floor. He has had years where he shot well. I'm not using this year because he's only played 18 games. By the way, we're going to wrap it up pretty soon, people. But he has had times where, he has played only 18 games this year. But overall, say he's a 35% shooter. He shoots well enough, but it's hit and miss. His main damage is in the mid-range, which ironically is what you want Scotty to do. He's a better offensive player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go back and forth about Brandon Ingram. I like Brandon Ingram as a player. I just don't know if he's the right fit for us and the right fit right now, especially when this draft might have a variation of Brandon Ingram who could play better defense and will not cost $40 million on this team. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
We'll see.
We'll see. I don't think, as time goes on, I think as days go by, I think this number drops in my mind more. I don't think this. I don't think this Brandon, like, just talking this out for the last couple hours, it doesn't even make sense as we discuss it. Like, it doesn't make sense financially. It doesn't make sense, on the floor. It doesn't make sense culturally. All these things, none of them make sense to me. Like, I don't, we say we're a bad defensive team. We get one of the worst defenders in the league to come and replace a guy who's already one of the worst defenders in the league. We don't want to be ball dominant. We get a guy, in this case, the ball dominant scorer. We want, in this case here, everyone's talking about, we got to be on Scotty's timeline. We get a guy who's going to be approaching 30 in a couple of years. What are we doing here? All these things, and then we want healthy guys, to your point, Kenyon, and we get one of the most injured guys that we know in the league. Remember I said there's about 10 guys in the league that are always hurt? He's one of them's always on the list.
And quickly,
It's not all his
coming
fault,
back
I'll
to
say.
it.
Yeah,
No,
quickly.
it's
But
his fault. I'm just saying, like everyone says,
But,
load
yeah.
management and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's no load management. It's the same 10 guys
Well,
that get hurt all the time.
right, because when you're always having to play, Paul George went through this. When you're always having to play because your co-stars hurt and you have to carry more offensive load, it breaks you down. So that's the main thing. It's like will his knees hold up? And there's just a lot of questions. If it happens, I'm not like, oh my gosh, world is that I'm not jumping off a bridge, But do I think it's the best move? No. Where was it? Sorry. This don't apologize. I mean, you made the chat lively. You're contributing to the conversation. That's what it's about on Basketball Rewind. We want to facilitate conversations. We want to have these conversations. Wish we could stay for a whole heck of a lot longer, but I know I have to go and these guys got to go too. Sorry, you were saying, and then we'll get to this question, and then if there's any more questions, we'll go pretty soon.
No, go to Daniel's point here. Makes sense if Pels want to get under tax and give Raps a second to take on BLS. It was BLS on expiring. Better than buying out Brown. Oh, BI, sorry, expiring. Better than buying out Brown. Yeah.
Do they have their seconds this year?
I can tell you in a second, but
they really didn't do much with those Los Angeles picks, man. It's like
no, they didn't. That's
gonna be really going back when you look at this era.
So the Pelicans have 2 firsts for this year, although the Milwaukee pick is probably not going to convey because it's protected 5 through 30. So it's only going to convey if the Pelicans somehow drop off the face of the earth and win the lottery. That is a weird pick protection. They also have their own pick this year, and they have swap rights with Milwaukee. Oh, right, Drew Holiday. Why would they agree to that protection? That was dumb protection. Okay.
They had their own second this year.
They do not have their own second this year, actually. The first second that they have is Chicago in 2027. So they actually don't have a lot of assets. In terms of this, I mean, again, I think that Brandon Ingram is a good player. I think he's good offensively. I think there's a world where he could fit here. I don't think it's the best. Do I think that would I rather have Ace Bailey and what he can do and 3 years down the line and being a little bit more patient than Brandon Ingram? Yeah, I would. And do I think that it's easier to, if you're talking about buying in and coaching players, is it easier to coach a player who is X amount of years into the league and trying to prove himself and trying to be an all-NBA player or an all-star and all that versus a guy who's just coming in and just trying to learn the NBA? I would say it would be the latter, not the former. So with that being said, I mean, if you are a Brandon Ingram fan, all power to you. Buy the jersey, stuff like that. I'm sure you will be cheering along and that sort of thing. BI won't resign. I mean, he may not have a choice if we trade for him. So there is that. Because there's no money out there for him. So, yeah. So whoever trades for him is going to keep him. But, yeah. With that being said, is there anything that you guys want to cover? Otherwise, we are going to be out of here.
No, man. By the time we speak next Saturday or next Friday or wherever it might be, it's going to be fun times this coming week. Fun times ahead.
We'll see. I have jokingly said that only all 4 guys would be here. I do think at least 2 of the guys will be gone. So I do agree with you, but I just want to have a little bit of fun there. But it's going to be an interesting trade deadline. And it's already starting because the Clippers just made a move. So, yeah, that being said, people stay safe, stay inside because it's cold. Am I doing a trade? I will be. I don't know if these guys will be there. I don't know the timing of it. So I'm going to try to probably do like an hour leading the hour of the trade deadline ending. So if any moves have happened, I'll cover those. I'll cover them in real live time. And then we'll see. I'm not going to ask these guys, not going to put them on the spot, but we might do something later on that day as well. So, yeah, that's all, people. Peace. Stay warm. It's cold outside, especially if you're in the GTA today. Stay fed, and let's beat them tariffs. All right. Peace.